Hello and welcome. Today I'll be sharing with you the story of Dark Souls, more specifically, the fate of the Chosen Undead. And I just want to say, I'm not going to do the thing that I've seen a lot of Let's Players do, where, they pick up the Estus Flask and they go, oh, what is this? What is this? Oh, okay, the Estus Flask heals you? Okay, well, what button to use it? And then they go and use it, and then they go and do the little thing, and the world's moved on since Dark Souls 1. This video is dated, of course, but honestly, Dark Souls 1 holds a special place in my heart. Only in the ancient legends it is stated that one day an undead shall be chosen. But in the age of ancients, and in the family tree of the knight who drops the key for you, thou who art undead art chosen. For the build, I wanted to be an edgelord, so of course I picked the pendant. And you're going to want to remember, fond memories comfort travelers, so just keep that in mind. Fond memories comfort travelers. And then moving forward from there, we're going to kick it off in the Undead Asylum. And I just want to start off by saying it's amazing to me how many parallels Dark Souls shares with facing challenges in the real world. If I were to describe life through metaphor, and it were a mountain upon which we must always be climbing to succeed or to achieve a better state of being, to get to that next highest view. And we're constantly climbing, and when we look for a place to rest, we have to stop climbing. And in those moments of reflection, sometimes fear can set in. I know it does for me. And I think the thing I fear most is that I might fall one day, and that the climbing I had done had been for nothing. But the reality of the situation is, if I feel afraid of falling from where I'm at, what I should be is proud that I've been able to achieve what I've done so far, and confident in the skills that have gotten me to the point I'm at, and be comfortable when I fall, only to hope that maybe I'll have a soft landing and be able to climb once again up that mountain. But could you imagine living 27 years of your life, climbing a mountain, and then you sort of have to come to terms with, oh, I need to take off that mask. That's what it was like being trans for me. And could you imagine spending 3.5 years in the Navy, climbing through the ranks and making first class before 5 years, only to be let go from the Navy and have to start again in a new career? That's what it's like in life. Sometimes you don't necessarily get the option to keep climbing the same mountain. You have to move to a new mountain. But when you approach the new mountain, the thing is, you should retain the skills that were built on the mountain before, because each new mountain is a new opportunity to grow. And honestly, at the end of the day, persistence is the greatest strength of all, for it's by that strength that rivers are capable of carving faces of mountains. And by persistence, I know that when I reach the peak of the mountain, that I will look out upon the world and be grateful that I was able to get so high, and at the same time, that there are other mountains in the world for me to move on and climb, that this is not the last mountain I'll climb. And every person can take their own path up any given mountain, but the world is so full of vastly different experiences. And the reason I bring this up is because in the world of Dark Souls, everyone who plays the game goes through the same path of being the Chosen Undead. And so that means the fate of the Chosen Undead is an incredibly central topic to the game that I feel like, I don't know, I really enjoy. So I made a fun little build where I like to push people off the edge with miracles. You see, after getting out of the Undead Asylum, when you arrive in the Land of Lords, Lordran, the first time I heard that, I blew a fuse in my head. It baffled me that such a naming convention could be so obviously put together to create this dynamic fantasy world. And this was before I consumed any of the lore relating to the game, so I had a very unknown sort of perception of the game, but I came to know that somewhere in the creative team, the decision was made to make a lot of terms incredibly literal in the naming convention, and in doing so, Lordran, who runs the world, Lords. It's the Age of Lords. The Lord souls have been distributed. We got to see them all in the opening sequence that I didn't play for you, so let's get to introductions. First and foremost, we have Gwyn, Lord of Sunlight. Now this guy, great guy. He actually gave up his Lord Soul to the four kings, who we'll talk about them a little bit later because they aren't mentioned quite yet. But he did it, and he sacrificed himself to continue the Age of Flame. Good guy, good guy. Gwyn, Lord of Sunlight, good guy, good guy. And as far as the lords go, we got Nito, First of the Dead, big old bonehead. It's okay, I can say that. I have a skeleton. We got the slimy, scaly Seath. It's okay, I can say that. I'm a furry by adjacency. And then we got the Witch of Izalith and our really cool coven of cool people that do chaos magic. Please don't pour water on me. And you know what? That furtive pygmy, forget about him. You know, you don't need to know nothing about him yet. We're not worried about the furtive pygmy. Furtive pygmy has nothing to do with the fate of the undead. Absolutely nothing. But back to our role as the Chosen Undead. We are fated to go to the land of lords, Lordran, and ring the Bell of Awakening. Well, you see, there are two bells, actually. The crow drops us off in Firelink Shrine. Don't ask about the crow. We'll get to the crow. I know about the crow. Don't ask about the crow. As a matter of fact, the crow drops us off in Firelink Shrine, and you consider that name the place to link the flame, Firelink, shrine of worship. You know, you're kind of worshiping the act of linking the fire. And we've come here and we know we got to ring the two bells of awakening. So we're already getting pretty woke here. If you had to guess, a place like Firelink Shrine is where you're dropped off after the Undead Asylum to ring two bells of awakening, what do you think the fate of the undead would be? Go ahead and leave it in the comments down below. Smash that like button, hit the subscribe if you haven't already. Do you think a world that corrals the undead to the north, though, is necessarily a world that the undead should be beholden to, the pursuit of extending? What benefit do the undead see to linking the fire if the undead are constantly being thrown to the wayside? What is their motive here to link the fire? The game pushes us in a direction, but we don't necessarily know why it's pushing us in that direction. And just to kind of outline what I did when I was in Firelink Shrine, the first time I grabbed the Morning Star, which is next to Cracked Red Eye Orb. If you're trying to ponder an orb, go ahead and ask a sorcerer. You'd better find answers there. But when you find one next to an Allfather Lloyd talisman, you have to ask yourself, you have a orb for invading other worlds, you have an item to prevent other users from using their Estus, and you have a Morning Star, and Gwyn is the Lord of Sunlight. Do you see any parallels that might be able to be drawn to certain deities of any kind? The miracle we're going to be using for the playthrough also is Force, so we're going to buy that off of Petrus of Thorland. He's going and waiting for his priestess and their two accomplices, and from there, I guess we'll just go ahead, go off, go up, ring a bell, you know? There's two bells, but we'll go ring one of them. We'll figure it out. The Undead Burg is as it always has been. You get the residence key, you go and get the golden pine resin, you do a cool little backstep through the flaming barrel, and then you go and stop the archers, and then you get killed by the Taurus demon. And another thing about the golden pine resin, it's always wild to me because you get these items to buff you, but because when you die, like the Estus flask recharges, but the golden pine resin doesn't. It makes me scared of using the golden pine resin because I'm like, oh, there's got to be a time to use it that's like the right time. And if I use it and then I die, and then it's like you have to run back and you have one less golden pine resin. And I've only found 3 of them in the starting area so far. So should I be using it on the Taurus demon or do I save it for later? I always wonder that, and then I get to the end of the game and I have fucking 3 pine resin and I don't know what I'm doing with myself. All that to say, we lost to the Taurus demon a couple times. On the run back, I just want to say, I once saw a chart that sort of analyzed the skill of Dark Souls player and the measure of deaths that they have. And something interesting about it is it's U-shaped, because as a Dark Souls player gets more and more confident, they become more and more careless and make more and more silly mistakes because they fail to see the threat that's actually present in the game. It's actually incredibly reminiscent of the anime Frieren, where demons carry their mana out and openly and use it as a source of status and wealth in their communities, while Frieren suppresses her mana, causing demons to underestimate her at several turns. And while it's considered dishonorable to fight that way, Frieren's alive and the demons aren't, so what do you want, you know? But after the Taurus demon, we're getting to the exact reason why I wanted to make such a big fuss about Firelink, Shrine, and Lordran, okay? Now, if I told you Gwyn, Lord of Sunlight, has a firstborn son that is mysteriously disappeared. Now, let me provide the context of the world. You exist in Lordran, where the undead are corralled to the north to await the end of days. And the royal family has a child who is branded by the dark sign, as we saw in the opening sequence. Maybe you didn't see it because I might not have shown it, but here it is right now. So you have a character branded by the dark sign from the royal family, the firstborn son of Gwyn, who then becomes an undead. The undead, the fate of the undead, seems to be in opposition to the status quo, the way things are, because why else are the undead corralled to the north and held in prisons to await the end of days? Pretty much all spelled out for you right there, because when I tell you the Game Boy Advance game Golden Sun taught me that the words soul sanctum means sanctum for the soul. And soul in that context, S-O-L, means son. So when I tell you there is a firstborn son of Gwyn, and that there is a character whose name is Soul Heir, whose name is heir to the soul, heir to the sun, who do you think that firstborn son is? If I told you that that firstborn son of Gwyn, if I told you that all he does as an undead is look up at the sun and wish he could be so grossly incandescent, would that convince you that maybe the Lord of Sunlight might have passed it off to his kid a little bit and then banished him out after he was branded as an undead? Anyway, I really like how Soul Heir's head follows you when you go back and forth while he's talking. Up next, we have the Under the Bridge sequence, which I'm going to go ahead and say it. This is why I pick Force, is because I can't stand these little edge battles where you got to push the guys off the edge, and like they have shields and they block, and then you get to the next part and they have rats. I can't stand it. Rats, dogs, all the things that move all weird. And then they give the rats the poison buildup. So then you get poisoned, and then you get this gentle hiss while you watch the fuse of your health bar deplete. And it causes so much anxiety when you're playing. Like, what, am I playing a game or what? And that's, welcome to Dark Souls. Anyway, I run through the undead parish and I go over and I make this cool shortcut, really cool shortcut. Definitely don't miss the key that's sitting right there. And I go and I think at this point I go to Andre of Astora. No. Well, Andre the blacksmith. And at this point, I feel a little tired. What better way to correct that than with a nice grass crest shield, guarded by a black knight carrying a black knight's halberd, which is arguably the best weapon in the game. It's definitely in the best Dark Souls top 10 weapons, at least the 16 I've seen. Eventually I get through them though. Eventually the edgelord comes to fruition, and I get the grass crest shield, and then I face my first wall in Dark Souls. I go up to the channeler, and you know what this guy does? This guy Fortnite dances on me. Sticky Basket, got Fortnite danced on. I'm supposed to be doing the Fortnite dancing. So you know what I did? I went and I got better, and then I trained, and then I went back and I fought. Eventually, I was able to take down the channeler, and then I realized that by taking the shortcut earlier, I had forgotten a key. Not the key that I pointed out earlier, a different key, the key for Lordran. So I go back and I walk across this balance beam, totally on purpose, totally didn't think it was the mystery key over there. And then I get the mystery key after getting the item that was on the balance beam. The entire purpose for me getting the mystery key is because I wanted to be able to summon Lordran alongside Solar as I go through the first boss battle. Or not first boss battle, but the gargoyle boss battle. And then when I got there, Lordran's summon sign wasn't there. And I don't know what happened, but instead I summoned Solar, who got on the ladder and then kicked me. And then we went and killed the gargoyles together. And I rang the first bell. And you might be thinking, oh, well, obviously, you go to the Capra Demon next. But since I didn't grab that key that I had completely forgotten to get, I go, oh, well, I gotta go get the key. And then I go and I fight some Baldur Knights, and I'm fighting on my way to get the key, and I get shot in the back by some magic that I have never seen. I played this game since release, since Prepare to Die edition, since back on the Xbox 360 when I bought it for 20 bucks off a friend in high school who got filtered by the tutorial area. I've played it all those years, and not once has one of those I think it's one of the Gravelord Covenant people zapped me, but one of them got me. Ha-ha! It's all she wrote.